I'm Adiola, the founder and CEO of Kredete, and I would like to give a quick background on the product we are building. People love to explain Africa as a single country, but it's a continent with 54 different countries, 54 different economies, and most importantly, 54 different regulations. Just to show you the intricacy uh, on what we've built thus far. So we are one of the largest payment companies that has helped a lot of companies settle payment locally on an upfront basis. And now we've expanded. I love to say that we've built a new payment line. Most importantly, not for just paint, but also for inter-global African trade. I don't know if you know Angola, which is one of Africa's countries. They are the largest producers of the iron steel beam even to New York, and they do about a $2 trillion in volume. And one of their biggest problems is moving money from Angola's local currency to USD. And this is one of the things we're solving for now. Before we started building core payment infrastructure, we first wanted to understand where Africans are globally. So we built a remittance product. And we built a product for Africans in the US to send money back home. And beyond just remittance on chain, which is we use stablecoins to process the volume. But most importantly, we help them to build their local credits with Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. And we saw a lot of adoption. I'm talking about a million users in 18 months, all organic, using the product at least once a week and growing. So we added other different products like banking, getting them access to both like dollar, euro access, which I will talk about eventually. But most importantly, I think that's the last one is the pretty big announcement I'm probably going to make later on today. It's extremely difficult within the African continent. Many people talk about liquidity. In Africa, liquidity isn't the major problem. It's regulation, and two, having access to banks to release off-ramps. So we've acquired a bank in Africa, one of the largest economies in Africa, in Nigeria, that gets us access to local markets across over 40 countries. And one of the things we saw was USDT was in the continent, USDT was on the continent, but the regulators were not willing to work with them. But we worked with the regulators basically on one core principle. Mobile wallet payment had hit $2 trillion, which was on average the same volume with Zelle payments. And we still had a lot of problems with intra-African trade. So if you move from Nigeria to Ghana, you are most likely unable to settle in local Ghana cities because of so many regulatory risk and problems. And this is what stablecoin is offering us today. So it was very simple. My pitch to them was very simple. We brought them on chain. So we've been able to move payments from point A to point B, regardless of where you are. And I like to always say that we've heard about the debanking policies that has happened over the past 10 years. And obviously with new regulations, we're seeing this potentially about to change. But Africans globally are also debanked. So if you go to a Bank of America online and you type your Nigerian or Ghanaian, you're unable to open a bank account. Or with the ability of stablecoins today, where you can get access to dollar and euro access globally without having to walk into a bank like it's 1950. And this is some of the things that our product has seen so much adoption. We also build an infrastructure in such a way that when you get access to local payments from your employers, for example, a Nigerian content creator that has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, because PayPal has lack of access to setting local currency, they do not have the ability to get paid in local currency, thereby having a major problem when payments come in. So the infrastructure we built was, once the ACH lands it into their bank account, we automatically put it on chain and then have them have access to local currency in over 40 African countries out of 54. And this is something we've been doing for the past 24 months. I'm trying to speed out through this, and I'll talk about this more. We've seen banking as a service infrastructure in the US with the likes of Synctera, which is going through content orders with Evolve and Trust and Choice Financial Group. But one of the major players, Units, which is the banking infrastructure, they tend to have so many regulatory risks come fiat So if they're about to onboard a business in the US, it's going to take them on average about 8 months to onboard those businesses, which means they need a local credit being, they need a bank sponsor. So it's a lot of regulatory hurdles. Or with our direct stablecoin credit card, we've been able to eliminate a lot of these hurdles directly with Visa as a corporate partner with us, and also directly plug into Visa for a local settlement network. So this is some of the things we've been able to build from a strong infrastructure play. I talked about some of these examples. So we built cross-border payments, which is the most important factor here. I talked about payouts. An Angola creator, which, as you've all seen with Meta, getting on chain over the next couple of weeks and months, they have the inability to get paid. So how have they been doing it thus far? So they need to have a cousin or a family member in the UK or US that receives the money, goes to Western Union, and then they send it over to them. And that's on average about 30% on the fees. So we've been able to reduce their inconvenience, because it takes on average, obviously, 6 p.m. in US is about 12 a.m. in Nigeria. So banks are closed, and 9 a.m. in Nigeria is 3 a.m. in the US. So banks are not open. So when we talk about inconvenience, we're talking about time stamp as well across the globe. And this is something we've been able to solve today with our products, providing convenience with payout locations. I talk about dollar and euro access. Many banks are debanking and delisting Africans to be able to open bank accounts. And today, with the download of our Kredete app, you get access to US dollars, euros, now GBP as well, and Canadian dollars. So we're becoming the new bank for African immigrants globally. This is some of the use cases through how money moves. Thus far, we're talking about money moving from USD to USDT and setting an average of about 8 seconds. I posted our last investment thesis, and we moved money from the US debit card to a Nigerian local bank account in 8.95 seconds. And that was one of the fastest process time in the African continent. So this is something we're building at scale. And over time, we're seeing that with more adoptions from the African government with our bank institution, we are able to make real-time payments a possibility. I took my competitors. There are a lot of stablecoin players, which uses our core infrastructure. I'm sure a lot of you know some of the core MoneyGram trying to go on chain. So one of our investors, Stellar, directly plugged into our ecosystem and growing thus far. So we've seen strong adoption across the African region. And I'd love to speak more about the African continent a little bit, because when I talk about the African continent, people think it's one country, like I said early on. So Africa has 1.4 billion people spread across 54 countries. We have the top 10 economies like Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Rwanda, Morocco, Kenya, being the strong economies for tech, but beyond tech, but also adoption for global payments. So when you talk about Brazil in Latin America, we have to put Nigeria there from a creator adoption. But the difference between Brazil and Nigeria is regulation, right? And this is where we sit as a foundation for the local governance to understand what crypto means. So we're bringing more networks to the country, to the continent. The founder of X, Twitter before called X, has been in Kenya for a bit to talk more about how the African governance can best adopt crypto on daily lives. So this is some of the things we're seeing. And beyond just payments into the country, there's so much fragmentations between payments inside the country, right? So if I have my vacation in Cape Town, South Africa, it's very hard for me to get South African runs. So either the FX is roughly about 5x markup, or I have to hold cash in South Africa. It's very hard for me to also spend it from my cards. So some of the things we're seeing. And because the continent is very young and it is a lot of adoption, it's very the nuances sits with the governance to best understand how well this evolution and adoption can best benefit the citizens of the country and the continent generally. So this is some of our investors. So like we mentioned earlier, we're plugged into 2 US banks, so we can offer local banks in seconds. And we have some of the best investors across, being DNA one of our investors too as well. And this as a corporate partner to our growth. Over the past 24 months, we've grown amazingly fast. Like I said, costed for about 1 million users. We recently raised a $20 million Series A round. We processed volume for about 2,000 businesses. We also hit the B number in TPVs on 24 months, all going on organically, just because we're the foundational layer through which payments come into the African continent. And this is just one thesis on what is Africa, right? So this is just 25 countries on the map. And there are 54 countries, different regulations, different process, different payments, different currencies. And this is what we do best. We have the interconnection through which we've been able to process multiple payments across. I wanted to use this medium to announce we will be launching actually the first stablecoin backed credit card on the African continent, which means that now African can spend, save, and most likely tap over the next coming weeks. And this is beyond just actually giving people access to payments, but now giving them a lot of abilities that we've seen in the West. And over time, once they've been able to spend, I guess that's when yield content they get to save and earn yield and yield the financial structures on the African continent. Thank you very much. Any questions? Perfect. Thank you.